talk about economy or the development or growth, economic activities, you cannot run away from the issue of electricity supply. This is one thing that politicians are campaigning with at this time. They've been campaigning with it for years. During the scorecard presentation of the PMB administration, we're told that megawatts of electricity supply available now is about 8,000 megawatts. Well, I don't know about that, but we do have Mr. Roman Osegale, a business consultant with Momas Group. Good morning. He's in the electricity sector. And tell us, so the scorecard said that electricity supply has gone up to 8,000. I know we used to have about 4,000 before now, but the scorecard, a lot of people were surprised. I was surprised when we saw 8,000 given as a scorecard megawatts. Please tell us, you are in the industry.
Well, yeah, thank you for having me. I think it's basically not the consumption we should be looking at. We should be looking at the generation, right? I read some data out here, right? As at 13th of this month, Nigeria raised its electricity generating capacity to 22,000 megawatts. That was announced from 18,000 in February 2022. That's an addition of 4,000 megawatts, but the country is only able to distribute 8,000 megawatts, right? That's 14,000 megawatts short. That's just sitting there.
Sitting or wasted?
Yeah, well, we can say being wasted.
I'm asking that to know if it's sitting, that means we can still get our acts together and tap into it. If it's wasted, we cannot access it.
It's sitting there because it's not being used. And the reason why it's not being used is because the discos that are supposed to distribute lack the proper infrastructure to interface between generation and distribution. So that's basically the problem.
But we've had some policies, that are supposed to aid that. Metering, for instance, we're supposed to have maps,
yes,
that is supposed to ensure that Nigerians get meters, in fact, get it for free and pay for it in bits over time and all of that. So what's going on?
But you see, let me start out by saying the discos are also burdened, to be very honest, right? If you look at the data that is coming out, Nigeria has the highest ATC and C in the world. That's aggregate technical, commercial, and collection losses in the world. Now, almost 85 million Nigerians are not connected to the grid, but they have lights. They use electricity. Each disco loses about 3 billion naira monthly. Times that by 11 discos, and it will give you how much? That's about 33 billion naira monthly. If those funds are able to be collected through these mass metering programs, right, you can imagine the amount of funds that will be reinjected into investment to be able to utilize that 14,000 megawatts that is just sitting idle.
What's stopping this metering? Because we've talked a lot about it.
Now,
we've seen policies about it.
Okay, so it's a wide variety of things, mismatch of policies. You understand? Now, let's look at the map, for instance, right? You have consumers pay to secure meters from MAP. MAP provides the meters to the consumers through the discos. The discos pay for the meters by giving the meters the discos pay for the meters by issuing units to consumers over a period of 36 months. This also limits the amount of funds they are able to generate monthly. You understand? And then, at the end of the day, remember, they have ATC and C losses, right? They have the highest energy theft in the world. So how do we solve this problem? Is by providing these meters. And at the end of the day, the metering provision also have its own hitches too. There are not enough installers. The funds being given by CBN has found faults. And CBN is saying we're not going to release these funds at the appropriate time. We have to do audit to make sure that these funds are being used for the appropriate reasons why they have been disbursed in the first place. So I think to some extent their own hands are also tied. But The easy way out, I would believe, is that government should deregulate the sector, make sure that they assist.
What do you mean by deregulate the sector?
Now, okay. Now, look at, let's look at the telecom sector. You look at the banking sector, you look at the insurance sector, right? Now, I have the options to buy my SIM card from any of the telecoms provider, right? Now, there are manufacturers of prepaid meters. Let government set a standard for manufacturing of prepaid meters, and then let consumers buy these prepaid meters, and then the discos, let them pay for it directly from the manufacturers, and let the discos come and install. That will take off a lot of burden from the discos. And then the funds which they are able to realize, they can re-inject into tapping these 14,000 megawatts of electricity.
Yeah, but I know the discos are not very comfortable with that because of the issue of standardization. Also, a lot of the meters are still being imported, in spite of the fact that MAP sets a level that is supposed to be imported and the others are supposed to be acquired locally.
Okay. Now, those that are supposed to be, I consult for a company that manufactures prepaid meters, right? Now, you also need to look at, are they able to compete with those that are being imported? Now, there's a company that generates electricity by burning diesel, and their average cost per month is about 23, 24 million naira. So how are they able to compete? So government also needs to look at the fact that these people are burdened, the manufacturers are burdened, right? And they cannot meet up because of the financial burden on them. They also need to also look at a way where they can subsidize manufacturing, because it also creates jobs for the local, for the local economy.
Industry, yeah. And then you also talked about the issue of skills. You mentioned that earlier, the human resources needed for this installation and running of the meters.
Okay.
I mean, that shouldn't be a problem in a country where you have about 40% unemployment. Okay. You have majority of those youths, you know, who can be engaged.
In 2018, one of the local meter manufacturers, Momas Group, set up Momas Metering School. And that was because they saw a huge deficit in the prepaid metering sector of the economy. Now, one of the reasons why the deficits were there was because there was no meters. And then they also found out that when the meters are available, there are not enough installers. So they set up Momas Metering School. Now, to date, it has graduated almost 1,000 students, right? Now, but the major thing is this. When we looked at data, and we compared data in 2018 or 2019, we had 6,000 metering deficit. 2019 and 2020, government was only able to install about 252,000 or 253,000. We brought the average to about 262,000 meters nationwide, right, that were installed annually. Now, what we now calculated was mind-boggling. Now, if we go by that rate, it would take about 23 years to install 6 million metering deficit. Now, but where will Nigeria be in the next 23 years?
What can we do now? Because we're running out of time. Okay. What can we do now? Because it sounds really complicated, from talking about the issue that, oh, you have about 18,000 megawatts being generated, but sitting down somewhere, to the issue of discos and losses, to the issue of metering and getting skills.
Yeah, what we can do now is that government should, first of all, also support the local manufacturing industry. Let them scale them up, right? They need funds. They need to also be subsidized. Second, we also need to scale up the skill acquisition for meter installers, like what Momas Metering Group is doing right now. And if we are able to do that, maybe replicate what Momas is doing in Lagos in the 6 geopolitical zones of the country, that will also help.
All right, Mr. Roman Osagale, a business consultant, thank you so much for joining us this morning. And we do hope this issue of power generation and distribution will be solved one day. Thank you.